Hi class, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over lesson 5, which is called standard form of a line. So when you're given the standard form of a line, it's always written like this. It's written as ax plus by plus c. A, b, and c in this situation, I'm just going to write this in here, where a, b, and c represent the coefficients. Which is the number that accompanies the variable. Okay, so that's what standard form of a line is. I want you to notice a few things about this. The first thing I want you to notice is, right off the bat, A is always positive. So a few rules for standard form of the line, right? A is always positive. Okay? There are no fractions. And we'll talk about what to do to get rid of the fractions. Only whole numbers. And there is all the variables and all the coefficients. Oops, sorry, just my hand slipped there. All the variables and all the coefficients are on one side, and one side is always equal to 0. So I'm going to just put that in. All right, so those are our 3 standard rules as we talk about the standard form of a line. Okay, so let's just going back looking at these lines, which of these is in the standard form? Let's just go through it and we'll highlight the ones that are and aren't. So here we have 3x minus 5x equals 9. The first rule is that A is always positive. We meet that rule. There's no fractions, only whole numbers. But this one says all variables and coefficients are on one side. We don't have a 0 side here. So this is not an option. Here we have y equals 2x plus 1. A is positive in this situation. There aren't any fractions. But again, the variables are not on one side, so this doesn't count. Here we have it written as ax plus by plus c. Ax plus by, b in this situation is just 1, plus c. Written in the right form, we have one side that is equal to 0. A is positive. The 5 here is positive. Therefore, this counts, and we're just going to highlight that. Okay? How about for this one? 3x minus half y plus 7. A is positive, so that could pass, but there is a fraction, so this doesn't count. We can change it, but in this moment, it's not written as a standard form. Then we have x minus 8 equals 0, right? Is this written in the standard form? We have ax plus by. We seem to be missing a by here, but that possibly could be because y is just equal to 0. Or b is just equal to 0, right? So in which case, this would still count as a standard form. Okay, because it still equals to 0. Everything is still ax plus by plus c. So we would consider this in standard form. Okay, how about this one? And of course, as we're going along in this lesson, you're obviously listening to me and I don't have instant feedback from y'all. But if you could just, as we're going through this, go through it yourself. Okay, So think about it. This is written not in the right form. The first thing is y. We could change it around. We could rewrite this in standard form. It could be 4x plus 5y plus 2. So x always has to be the first, y has to be the second, and c has to be the last one. So in this situation, this is not written in standard form. Okay? You have 8x plus 2y equals 0. This is written in standard form. You have ax plus by. The c could just be 0, and it equals to 0. Okay? And then last but not least, you have y equals 7. This is not because we don't have a 0 side. All right, so it says rearrange the following equations into standard form. We're going to do this, and I'm going to just write at the bottom here a few steps for you to follow, right? And I'm going to just write them out, but when we get to how to do it, we can follow these steps. So step by step. We'll write them out when we finish doing one. Okay, so in this situation, we have a y equals 3x minus 5. I know that I have to have a side that equals 0, right? So I need to have one of these sides equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to get rid of the y on this side. It's just the easiest one to get rid of. So I know if I want to get rid of y on one side, I'm just going to have to minus y, 3x minus 5. Whatever I do on one side, I got to do to the other, right? So I'm going to minus 5 over there. Y minus y equal to 0, right? And I'm left with 3x minus 5 minus y. I just got to move this around so that the y is in the middle so that it follows the standard form equation. So I'm just going to carry this entire term, minus y, over here. I'm just changing the order of stuff around. Just make sure you keep the signs the same. Okay? So there's that. I have 0 is equal to 3x minus y minus 5. You can write it like this, or if you're kind of like me and you need to have things in a particular order, I just like the way this looks better. I'm all about that aesthetic in math, right? And that's my answer, right? And it follows the ax plus by plus c, right? And it'll give me the right answer. A is positive, there's no fractions, and it's equal to 0. Okay, this one gets a little bit more complicated just because we have this fraction here. But before we deal with that, let's just get everything onto one side. So I'm going to move the y onto the other side. I know in order to get rid of the y, I got a minus y on both sides. So y minus y. And you don't always have to write this step in. I'm completely okay if you just put in the minus y on the other side. I just need you to understand where it's coming from. I'm just going to put it right where it should go. So that I skip that step for myself. 0, negative 2 over 3, x minus y plus 1, right? Now, there is two problems here. One, we have a negative sign. Don't want that, no bueno, right? Two, I have a fraction. Don't want that either. Let's deal with the fraction first. In order to get rid of that denominator, I need to multiply everything, both sides, by 3. So let's multiply both sides by 3. I have 3 times 0, which will still give me 0. If I'm putting a 3 on the outside, I got to use distributive property and put the 3 in. This 3 will cancel out with this 3, so I'll be left with negative 2x. 3 times y will give me minus 3y, plus 3 times 1 will give me 3. Okay, still have a negative sign. In order to get rid of the negative sign, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1. Multiply both sides by negative 1. So 0 times negative 1 is still 0. Negative 1 times 2, you just change the signs. Positive 3y minus 3. And make sure you're changing all the signs for every single equation in that situation, every single term in that equation. Okay? And that's the answer. If you want, you can change it around to be 2x plus 3y minus 3 equals 0. Okay, now that we've done 2 examples, let's go in and write a few steps for ourselves. This will help us kind of have a method. So the one thing I like with math is while it's great to explore and understand the why, sometimes we also like to have methods to find out step by step how I should do something. Right, so the first step you should do is move all of the values with coefficients, or all of the coefficients, whatever you want to say, coefficients and variables to one side. I'm just going to make sure this is recording properly. Sorry. Just okay, perfect. To one side, so that the other side is 0. Right, so move everything to one side so that the other side is 0. 2, right? Rearrange the equation, the variables, so that it's ax plus, so just put the x, y, and then the coefficient is equal to 0, right? And then if there's a fraction, multiply all terms by the lowest common multiple, or by the lowest common denominator, which is what we did with the one above, lowest common denominator. And then if a, and you can write these out for yourself when you're studying and when you're doing practice problems. If a is negative, then multiply all terms by -1. Okay? And that's basically what we did just over here with b. So let's try to use that same logic here. So let's just go back through our steps. The first one said to move all of our coefficients and variables to one side. So let's do that. Let's move everything to one side. So I'm going to go back in blue. So I'm going to get rid of the y on this side. I'm going to move it to the other side. I'm just going to go put it in after the x right away because I don't like moving stuff around after. I'm lazy. Right? So I have 0, 3 over 2x minus y minus 1 over 5. Everything seems to be in the right order, so I'm just going to go in and say, all right, I got to get rid of the lowest common, I got to get rid of both these denominators. So I'm going to see what is the lowest common multiple of 5 and 2. And I know that it's 10, right? So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 10. Every time you multiply the other side, it's always going to give you 0 because anything times 0 is 0. But I would prefer that you show it just so that I know that you understand that. You can't just go around multiplying one side and not the other. Okay? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to multiply each term by 10. So 3 over 2 times 10 means that I'm going to cross out the 10 and I'm going to be left with 3 times 5, which is 15x, right? Minus 10 times y will give me -10y. And then if I had 10 here, these two would cross out, so I'd be left with 2 minus 2. And that's my answer. Okay. This is just, I'm going to just put this in green. I'm just going to show the step here because I did rush through it. So if I have 3 over 2 x right? Sorry. Times 10 over 1, right? And then I have y times 10, and then I have 1 over 5 times 10 over 1, right? I cross these out because I know they both go into each other, so I know that I'm left with 5. So if I have 3 times 5, that's 15. 1 times 1 is just 1, so I'm going to leave that out. Then I'm left with 10y. And then here, I know these two cross each other out, and I'm left with 2 here and 1 here. So I have 2 over 1. So I'm just going to leave it as 2. That's how I got that, in case you were wondering where that step came from. Okay? All right, so if we go over to x equals 3, we know that we just need to move everything over to the other side. So I can do x, oops, I'm just going to change it back to the blue pen. So x minus x, or I can even do x, it makes more sense to move the 3. So x minus 3 equals 3 minus 3. So x minus 3 equals 0. That's my answer right there. Over here, just makes more sense to move the y because to move the negative 5 minus plus 5 equals negative 5 plus 5. Negative 5 plus 5 will give me a 0. I'm left with y plus 5. And this is still in the form. We just assume that x is 0, or the coefficient for x is 0. Okay? And that's it. And I forgot to add one thing here. You got to simplify. Always put everything in the lowest common form. Alrighty. So, hopefully you took some time and you tried those by yourself as we were going through them, right? It's a really great way for you to make sure that you understand how things are done and that you have a step-by-step method of solving these problems. Okay, so we're going to move on. So it says example 3, given the slope and a point, determine the equation of this line in standard form. So again, I'll put the steps at the bottom, or maybe I'll even put them on the side over here if I can find some space. Right, so let's do steps over here. But let's solve this first and then we can make the steps together. Okay, so it says, given the slope and the point, determine the equation of the line in standard form. If you have the slope and a point, right, you can use our y minus y1 equals m x minus x1 formula that we had from before, right? So let's do it that way. Let's put in these points. So I know that y minus y1 is going to be y minus 2 equals 3 x minus negative 4, right? So let's just solve for y here. 3x plus 4, because the negative and the negative add together. Y minus 2. I'm going to distribute the 3 in. 3x plus 4. Right? Left with, oh, sorry, not 4. 3 times 4 is going to be 12. Right? So I'm left with 3x plus 12. And after that, I'm just going to take so I want to get rid of the minus 2, so I'm going to do y minus 2. If I want to get rid of minus 2, I'm going to add 2 to both sides, so 3x plus 12 plus 2, so y equals 3x, 12 plus 2 we know is 14. So I'm left with 3x plus 14. Another way that you could have done this is you actually could have done y equals mx plus b, plugged in the m for the m part of y equals mx plus b, and then plugged in the negative 4 and 2 as the y and x coordinates, and then you could just isolate for b. Either way, you can do that however way you want, right? You just need to get into y equals mx plus b form eventually. Okay, with that being said, right, now we're left here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to try to get the y and the x's and everybody on one side. So it's just easiest to move the y. So I'm going to move the y over to the other side by subtracting y from both sides. So I'm left with 0 because y minus y is 0. 3x minus y plus 14. Right? Now, I'm just going to go back and check my list up here. Is A positive? Yes. Is there no fractions? Yes. Are all variables and coefficients on one side that the other side is equal to 0? Yes. So this is my answer. Right? And it's in 3x minus y plus 14. Cool? Alrighty. So we're going to move on. And I'm actually going to do this particular one in the y equals mx plus b way. I have no preference for how you decide to do this. You do it the way that you find is more comfortable, unless I specifically ask you to use this equation, and if I ask you to use point slope formula. Okay, so let's do this that other way. So I'm going to just go put this in. So it says, I know m is equal to negative 3 over 2. I know this is x and y, so I'm just going to plug in, and I'm looking for what's b. So y equals mx plus b. So I have y is equal to negative 3 over 2, right? Negative 3 over 2, x plus b. And I'm going to go plug in my x's and y's. So it's 4 plus b, right? And then I'm just going to start solving for b. So then I'm left with 3 times 1, negative 3 times 1 is just negative 3 over 2, plus b. I'm going to want to move the 3 over 2 by adding 3 over 2 to both sides. So I'm just going to add 3 over 2 over here as well. Right, so I have 3 over 2 plus 4, right? I'm going to change the 4 into a mixed number. So it's going to become 8 over 2 because I want to put it over 2. So I have 4 over 1. Change it into an equivalent fraction. B, right? I'm going to add these two together because the denominators are same. I can. So it's 11 over 2 equals b. Right? So then I'm just going to go and put that into my equation. I'm going to say y equals mx plus b. And I really was trying to leave this space for me to write the steps, but it's okay. I'll write them somewhere else. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 3 over 2 x plus 11 over 2. Right? Let's move the y to the other side. So this equals negative 3 over 2 x minus y, because I did y minus y to get 0. Okay, so I'm left with that. Now, we have two problems here. Again, with the negative a. Again, with the negative a and with the fractions. So let's deal with the first problem first. So it says, move all the coefficients and variables to one side. We did that. Rearrange it so that it's ax plus by plus c. We did that again. If there's a fraction, multiply all the terms by the lowest common denominator. So what's the lowest common denominator here? 2. So we're multiplying all terms by 2. 2 times 0 is just 0. Negative 3 over 2x. And I'm just going to put the 2 in this green so that we don't get confused. Minus y, and I'm going to put it in green here, times 2 plus 11 over 2 times 2 over 1. Right, so let's start crossing things out. 2 and 2 can be crossed out, so I'm left with negative 3x over 1. So I'm going to put that as negative 3x over 1. I can just leave it. 2y plus, these two cancel each other out, so I'm left with 11 over, I'm left with 11. Right? Now, my second problem is that this is negative, so I got to multiply everything by negative 1 now. Because according to this, if you have a negative a, multiply all terms by negative 1. So let's multiply everything by negative 1. When you multiply by negative 1, you're really just changing the signs for everything. So negative 3 turns into positive 3, negative 2 turns into positive 2, and positive 11 turns into negative 11. And that is it. That's my answer. Okay? So, for the last one, it says to rewrite the following. Oh, let's make the steps actually. Let's do that now. So, if you have to find the slope, if you are given the slope and you're given a point and you need to determine the equation of the line in standard form, what you're going to do is actually just step 1, find the equation of the line in y equals mx plus b form, either through substitution, which is just stubbing in the values for y, m, and x, or by using slope point form. Right, so either do that, either or, right? So find the equation of the line. Then step 2, rearrange the formula, or rearrange the equation into standard form using the steps from before. Right, so steps 1 to 4 up here. All right, so that's how you would do that. We're going to move on now, right? I want you to actually try figuring out how you would do example 4 on your own. So don't watch first. Just go through and try to figure out how to do it on your own, because this is a really good thinking practice, right? It's a good way to see, am I thinking and am I understanding how these forms interchange between each other? Right? So think about it for a second, pause the video, and then come back for the answer. So if you're given something, so welcome back. If you're given something in slope form, right, you're basically just going to do the opposite of what we've been doing, right? So if you're given something in standard form, in order to go to the other form, you're just going to rearrange. I'm just going to write this in black so that they follow the steps that we've kind of been doing. Rearrange. And isolate for y. That includes getting rid of the variable on y. So if I give you the standard form of a linear equation and I ask you, tell me what the y-intercept is, totally doable, right? You just rearrange and put it into y-intercept form. Or you can sub in 0 for x. Either one works. Okay? All right. Let's try doing these two together. So we have 4x minus 5y plus 9 equals 0, right? So let's just rearrange and figure out how to get y by itself. I'm going to move the y over to the other side. So if I have negative 5y, I'm going to add 5y plus 9 equals 0 plus 5y. I'm just going to leave that over there. So I'm left with 4x plus 9 equals positive 5y, right? Now I want to get rid of the 5y over here, so I'm going to divide everything by 5, right? So we can rewrite this as 4x over 5 plus 9 over 5 equals y. If you want, and you're like me, and you're really particular in how you like to write your stuff, you can say y equals 4x over 5 plus 9 over 5. Okay. So try doing b by yourself if you haven't already, and then we could just take it up. So I'll pause for a second as you pause this video and try it by yourself. All right, let's take this up. So we have 2x plus 4y equals 0. You can move the y, you can move the x, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to move the x, so I'm going to put 2x minus 2x plus 4y equals 0 minus 2x, right? This gives me 0 plus 4y equals negative 2x on this side. Divide both sides. Oops. So I'm just going to get rid of the 0. I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to get rid of the 4 in front of the y. Divide both sides by 4. So I'm left with y equals negative 2 over 4x. I can actually simplify this further, so I'm going to do y equals negative 1 over 2x. Always simplify. Always put your equation and your stuff into lowest terms. And that is it. See you tomorrow.